Welcome. Thank you for coming to our Level Up with Learning Site series. In this series, we're talking about all things Learning Site. And specifically tonight, we are talking about the original edition of EntreCulturas, and EntreCultures, excuse me. So if you are a user of EntreCulturas 2023 edition or EntreCultures 2025 edition, this is what the books look like if you can see that on your screen. Then you're in the right place, because we're going to do kind of a mini review of how Learning Site works, and I'm going to we'll show you some of the new updates that have come to Learning Site, and that's what our plan is for this evening. My name is Alexis Bushert. I am a former Spanish teacher, and I actually taught with this edition of EntreCulturas before I left the classroom. So I love sharing my experiences with teachers. Amy is joining me this evening. Amy, please tell the people about yourself.
Hello, I'm Amy Rill. I am the instructional technologist here at Wayside. So I focus mostly on LMS integrations with Learning Site. So if you have any questions about that, I can answer those too. I'm a former German and Spanish teacher. I did not teach with EntreCulturas with my program, but I did use Neue Blickwinkel, and so the same kind of navigation of the site with the Neue Blickwinkel, as well as with the EntreCulturas and EntreCultures. So hope you enjoy this evening, and if you have any questions, please put them in that that question area with that question mark, and I'll do my best to answer as we go through.
Thank you, Amy. All right, we have a couple of polls for you because we want to know about you before we talk about Learning Site. So, which languages do you teach? We are very interested to know. And again, we're just focused on EntreCulturas and EntreCultures tonight. Mostly Spanish. All right. I'm going to show a couple of French examples, but we will look at some French also. Okay, thank you. And then the next question is, what levels do you teach? Wow, that's a pretty even spread between 1 through 4. All right. Well, the examples I've shown you that I prepared for this evening are level 1. But if we do need to go into the other levels to look at something, we can absolutely do that. But it looks like it's pretty evenly spread across the board there. Okay, thank you so much. All right, we're just going to get into Learning Site here. Again, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the question box. And we're going to start with some basics. So I'm going to swap back and forth between my teacher account and my student account. Right now I'm in my teacher account. So when you log into your dashboard, and you may log in a variety of ways, but when you get to your dashboard, this is what it's going to look like. Some updates for this school year, and even within the last few months, you now have these metrics up here on the dashboard when you log in. So you've got your grades here. You've got your assignments you need to review, anything that's overdue, what's due next. You can pop this window open down here to see any assignments that you have coming up that will be due. You can toggle this view on and off. So if you don't want to see all this metrics, you can turn that off, or you can open it up and look at all of that. There are 2 ways that you can access the content for your textbook. And remember, you'll see all of your textbooks on here. If you have multiple classes, for example, if you have 3 periods of Spanish 1, you're going to see all of them on this dashboard. So you might see 3 sections of Spanish 1 on this dashboard. One tip, if you didn't know this, under More right here, you're able to rename your class. So if you want to reorder them, it's ordered automatically alphabetically. So that's why I have a 1 in front of my classes here, because it's going to bump them to the top. So if you want to rename your classes so that they appear in a different order, you can pop open that More menu and do it right there. So to enter, you can go through Explore Content or Flex Text to find activities that you would like to assign to students or show to students. So I'm going to start with Explore Content over here. When I open this menu, it's going to either take me to Explore Content for the textbook, or I can head out to Newling if I want to access Newling. So when I open this, I can see the table of contents over here on the side, or I can access the same table of contents from the center of the screen. I think for this edition, it might be easier to access from this middle table of contents here. So I'm going to go into Unit 4, and then I can see my different sections of the book with the page numbers here. We're going to look at the video blog to start us off here. So I'm going to open this folder with the video blog. I can see I have the video here, a PDF with activities here, and then I have tasks. So these symbols, the stopwatch with the question mark, we call these tasks. Those are things that students are actually going to do in Learning Site. Another tip, if you did not know this, if you hover over this little eye right here, it'll tell you what type of assignment it is. So we've got a fill in the blank, and then we had another fill in the blank. This is a file upload, which means that that's a place for students to turn in that PDF. So this is a PDF right here. You could just print this out and make a handout if you want to. It's fillable, so students can type answers into it. If you assign it in this way, so this is a file upload task, what it's going to ask students to do is open that same PDF, fill it in, and then they're going to attach it here where it says add file, and they're going to submit that way. So you can choose how you manage these PDFs, if you want to print them out, if you want to attach to a Learning Site task and have them submit through Learning Site. And I know that Amy is thinking one really great option, if you have an LMS like Canvas or Schoology, Amy's like, yeah, you can, Amy, what's it called?
You can download.
Sorry?
You can download your PDF.
Yep.
And then upload into your LMS. And in Schoology and in Canvas, you have that student annotation option where you can use the Canvas and Schoology tools to give feedback to your students. So that goes, the same goes for the audio files and the video files. PDFs can be downloaded and added into your LMS.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word off the top of my head. Yeah, so if you are using one of those LMSs, that might be a really good option for you to use with these PDFs.
And so a question did come into the chat as far as LMS is concerned. Yes, we do integrate with Schoology, with Canvas, Google Classroom, and then a variety of other LMS can be discussed. If you want to reach out to your account manager, and I'll put the information for account managers in the chat, you can get in touch with them to ask more questions about how that can work with your district.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so a couple of things that we're going to look at under the assignments here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this screen. So under each of these assignments, again, you can hover over that little eye to see what type of assignment it is. Preview is going to be the teacher view. So if I select this, I am going to see the answers, the correct answers filled in for me. This is the teacher view. If I select attempt, that's the student view. So that's the student experience, what they're going to be seeing on their end. So if you want to demonstrate to a student what they're going to do with these tasks, you could use the attempt to show them. When they go in to do the activity, they'll see how many attempts they have completed out of how many they have available. And then they can start the task. You also have the option to assign from here. Share. Share is going to do two things. You can connect it to your Google Classroom, so you can create a post in Google Classroom right here, or you can grab this link and put this link anywhere, LMS, email, wherever it needs to go. You can hide the assignment, so if you don't want students to see it, you can select that. And then under this More button right here, you can adjust settings for this assignment, or you can print. Any of the tasks can be printed if you would rather have students do paper and pencil assignments instead of on the computer. With settings, this is the assignment specific setting. So here I can change the number of attempts that students have. The default setting is 3. So right now, universally, all students have 3 attempts on all assignments in my classroom, but let's say I want to treat this like a quiz, I might switch it to just 1 attempt. I have my gradebook set to points. We'll go there in just a few minutes of how to do that. So let's say I do want this to be a quiz. I want it to be worth more points. I can make it 30 points instead of 10, like everything else in my gradebook is worth 10 points. This is only, again, available if you have your gradebook set to points. If you have your gradebook set to percentages, you will not see this option. And then, do I want punctuation, accents, and capitalization graded? Currently, they are ungraded. I'm going to leave them like that. So I'm going to save, and that way, any changes that I made for the settings for that assignment are going to stay there. And another pro tip, if you get lost, you can use these breadcrumbs at the top here to navigate back to wherever you were. All right, so now I've decided I'm going to show this video to my students. So I'm going to select this video and I can play from here. Some other options down here in the bottom right. I can turn captions for this video on. I can adjust my playback speed. So let's say I want to slow it down. I can also download the transcript and the recording. So if I want to download this recording and then throw it in a slide deck or put it on an LMS or something like that, I can do that here. Just keep in mind, if you download the recording, it will not come with the captions. So if you want captions, make sure that students are watching it in Learning Site to be able to leave those captions on. So let's see what this video looks like when I've added the captions and I've adjusted my.
Estamos grabando la elaboración del chile relleno del video de los gustos mexicanos. Y lo primero que tenemos que hacer es comprar el chile verde, lavarlo.
Okay, so you get an idea of what that video will look like. And again, you can assign this video through Learning Site. You can share this, or so again, that's going to create the Google Classroom post or a link, or you can hide. Going to go back to my list of assignments here. We have not assigned anything yet, so let's go through and assign that. I'm going to select Assign. I can assign to my whole class, or I can drop down and pick specific students. If you have multiple classes of Spanish 1, they'll all pop up here. So you can assign them all at the same time, which is really nice. I'm going to assign this to my whole class. And then I can decide, do I want it to post right now or later? I can add additional instructions. I can select a due date, which I highly recommend. And then you can always go back and change any of these later. So if you want to put a due date and then it changes, that's totally fine. You can decide if you want this included in the final grade or not. So I have it included in my Learning Site gradebook. And then down here, do I want to hide the student task submission results? So this assignment that I'm assigning was the true-false questions. Let's say that students do the task. Do I want them to see right away whether or not they were correct in their answers? So I can hide their answers from them and say, I don't want you to see which ones you got correct and which ones were incorrect. But maybe I don't care and I do want them to see. So once I've gone through all of those options and selected what I want, I can assign, and now it will be added to my assignment list. This is one way to access the activities. So again, I'm just using my folders here, going through the different sections. The Comunica in the middle is going to have the most because that's where my vocabulary and grammar sections are. And that's one way to access everything. Another way to access all of the content is through FlexText. FlexText is my interactive page-for-page textbook, online textbook, same as the print textbook. So I'm going to go back to the unit that I was in, and we'll look back at that video blogger. So here's the video blogger. We saw that video earlier. And instead of going through the folders over here, I can use my compasses over here on the left side, select the compasses, and I'll see the content related to this section appear there. So from here, I can open up this task in a separate window. If I select this little box with the arrow, that way I'm not having to click forward, back with my arrows. I can select this. It'll open the content in a new tab. I can do any of those actions that we saw before. So here's a task down here, all those options I saw before. Another nice thing about this is, let's say I'm teaching and I'm displaying this on my board in front of my classroom. And I say, okay, class, here's, we're looking at this content together. I'm talking about el queso fresco, or maybe I'm talking about this bloguero. And then we come to the part where I'm ready for the video. I can show them these questions right here, say, here's what we're going to watch, here's what we're going to talk about. And then I can pop the video out right here if I select show preview, and then start playing it and make it full screen. So that's one, I think, really easy way in the moment to access all of this content. How are we doing, Amy? Any questions?
We do have a question about some differences between the 2023 edition and 2025 edition. Is there anything you can speak to now as we're inside the units that might address that question?
Yes. So one difference, if you have seen the new edition, with this Explorer Content tab, when I open a unit here, it is just going to show me the content from, or sorry, it's just going to show me the tasks, activities, resources, that kind of thing. And then if I want to see the textbook, I'm going to open the flex text and it will have the activities linked out of that flex text, right? So that's one difference. If I go into the new edition, I'm going to open a new tab here. You'll be able to see that the content is embedded. Let's go like this. The content is embedded with the activities below. So for this example, we've got vocabulary that's being introduced. This is a level 3 example. There's an audio clip that reads the vocab or reads this content to the students. So that's right above it. And then the activities are right below. So this activity is about what they just read above. And then from here, I have this option to assign, hide, print, all of the things that we saw before. It's just the menu is going to look a little bit different, and it's over here at the top. So that's, I think, one of the biggest differences between the previous edition and this newer edition is that you have the content right here with the activities embedded, and video and audio and all that stuff kind of embedded within it. You also have an ebook, so it's kind of like the flex text where you're going to pop out the textbook pages and be able to read through those. So there is 2 different ways to access the same content, just like over here we've got our Explorer content and flex text to access the same content. So I'd say that's the biggest difference.
And if you're interested in seeing the newer edition a little bit more in depth, we are having another webinar coming up on Wednesday that is featuring the newer editions and EntreCulturas as well. So if you want to really do a comparison between the 2, you've got tonight with the first edition and Wednesday with the second edition and EntreCulturas.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back into flex text over here. So let's look at a vocab example. We've got this vocab introduced here. They're in the market. They're learning about foods and the prices of foods. So our textbook page. And then we come to this example here. So I like to think there's 3 different ways I could have students complete this task. This is they're listing fruits and vegetables based on colors in this table. Students could easily copy this table down on a piece of paper and just write it out. Easy. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to print out the PDF that goes with this. and students could handwrite in this PDF, so I can make a handout. Third way is they could submit this digitally, so they could type in their answers into the spreadsheet right here, or sorry, into this document. If students are typing into a PDF, it is very, very important that up here at the top, we're in a Chrome browser, they select this little down arrow, sorry, and they save with their changes, or they download with their changes. That's very important because I had students that would not save with their changes and they ended up rewriting some things. So very important that students are trained to do that. Here we have a listening activity. So I know that because of the headphones icon is telling me that. Again, I can pop out that audio and we can listen to it
Paso 1.
while we're looking.
Escucha los pedidos de varias personas.
Same thing. I have another audio clip here. Play that while we're looking at the screen. So it's nice to have all of this content basically embedded in this textbook. A few things that you can do here, you can jump to pages. So I can always see what page I'm on. So for example, I'm on 205 right here, but I can always jump to a page by selecting this icon up here and going to the page that I'm looking for. Another thing you can do is search by keyword. So if you think, oh, I saw so-and-so in this book at some point in time, then you could type that in and it'll bring it up. The other thing you can do is highlight text and annotate. So again, I'm in my teacher account. I'm the teacher right now. I'm going to highlight this and say, maybe for planning purposes, I want to keep notes on when I'm doing what. This is only going to show up in my flex text. Students have their own annotation, so they can take their own notes and it's going to save on their own flex text. So I'm going to save this in mine, and then you can come up here to this little pencil paper icon and it will keep track of all of the notes that you've left yourself in this book. One thing that you could do as you're teaching, leave yourself notes throughout. So like, let's say I taught this and we did some of these activities in class and I want to leave myself a note for next year. I could keep those notes in here, make sure I export these notes at the end of the year, and then it's kind of like I have reflections on my lesson plan as I went through. When you export this, it will export as a Word doc, so it's editable. Also, if you highlight something, so let's say I highlight this whole activity, it will include this text when I export it. So that's something else to think about too, and it's in a Word doc. Another way that you can search for content. Oh, you can also use this zoom here to zoom in on the book and make it bigger or smaller. Another way you can search for content. So I'm going to head back to Explore Content right here. I have this magnifying glass, and this allows me to search and filter for different types of activities. So let's say that I'm in Unit 4. And I want to see all of the videos that are available. And it'll show me 11 videos. Something else I like about this, if you have a moment, search for URL. URL is going to be external links. So this, in this case, it's going to link out to this video on YouTube. So you never know what you're going to find in these URLs. Sometimes they're going to be, in this case, links to YouTube, sometimes links to museums. It just kind of depends on whatever the content is. But in this case, I remember teaching this one. I really like it. She goes to a taco stand in the middle of the night in Guanajuato and just shows what that's like. And do my students understand all the words? No, but do they understand, you know, this cultural piece of going and getting street tacos in the middle of the night? Yeah, it's kind of cool for them to see that kind of thing. So be sure to look at the URL every once in a while. Or if you see a URL and you think, what is this? It's just linked out to a different type of content. And again, this is the magnifying glass over here. All right, so we've looked at Explorer content. And again, you can use these expandable menus over here, but I think that it might be easier to use this one. So we'll look side by side at what this looks like. So over here on this left menu, it has a list of activities. When I hover over, though, it does show me the type of resource, whether it's a task, a document. So that's nice. That's helpful to see. If I select this, we'll look at the same section that we were just looking at. So here's the view. If you click on the middle menu, you can see it over here on the side too. This one has the little eyes that you can hover over. All right, our next tab is grades. So this is where all of our grades go in LearningSite. Again, if you're using an LMS, your experience might be a little bit different. But this is, if you're using the LearningSite gradebook, this is what it's going to look like. Keep in mind that I do have my gradebook set to points, so you will see points over here based on the amount of work that students have completed. Anything that is auto-graded, so that's multiple choice, fill in the blank, matching, those will all automatically appear in this gradebook. Anything that I need to go in and grade will appear with a blue dot. So if I need to grade something, I'm going to select it, and it'll bring me right to the student work. In this case, the student completed this PDF that we were looking at earlier and submitted it down here. So I can look at the PDF, look at their answers. I can see everything they typed in here. And then I am able to leave feedback. So I can give them a grade. This is out of 10 points, so I'll give them 10. I can leave a proficiency rating if I want. I don't have to. And then I can also leave feedback. So I can type my comments in. I can use audio or video to leave a comment also. There are rubrics here to reference. So let's say that this assignment was like they wrote a paragraph and I want to use a rubric to give them a grade on that paragraph. I can use one of those here. Then to toggle to the next student, I can use the arrows back and forth, or I can use this drop down and it would have a blue dot next to other ones that I need to grade. So I can easily open this menu and navigate to the next student. Let's look at a different type of assignment. So in this one, the student wrote these sentences. So in this case, I can highlight the student writing and then leave a comment. And then when the student goes in, they can select the highlighted text and see the comment. Same thing, I can go up here, edit my grade, and then leave a comment.
And you can leave written, audio, or video feedback for your students, not just the written like Lexi's showing right now.
Yes, thank you. This audio little camera and microphone will let you leave audio and video.
You did have a question about how the recordings get graded, which you're doing right now.
Perfect. Thank you for the segue.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. If a student submits an audio or video, it will appear like this. In this case, we have a video. So I'm going to start playing the video. Tenemos un festival en nuestra ciudad. If I want to add a comment, I can select add comment. It'll pause the video and then it will time stamp the comment. So that way when a student goes back, they know that I left that comment right at 5 seconds. You can leave a written comment. You can even leave an audio or video comment. So if I wanted to correct pronunciation, for example, I could do that. En octubre, donde tomamos calabaza. So I could select add recording, start recording. This is my audio comment. And then that would appear for students so they know, oh, she left me that audio comment at 10 seconds. So many opportunities to leave lots of feedback for audio and video that's been submitted. This assignment is actually multi-parts. So we've got the video recording, and then there's a written piece down here that the student wrote. So again, I can leave more comments on their writing. Notice this student has 2 attempts. So we're looking at attempt number 2. I can go back and look at attempt number 1. Let's say that I want to get rid of this attempt, like maybe I want to give them more attempts, or they say, please don't watch that video, it was embarrassing, or whatever. I can go down here to the bottom and remove this attempt. So that way it frees up an attempt for them. And now they only have 1 attempt in there. Then I can go in again and leave a grade and a performance rating. I'm going to give myself a notch high.
We also had a question in the chat about where to locate the assessments. So this here is an example of one of the assessment components. Where can someone go to find assessments?
Great question. Thanks for asking that. All right, so we're going to head back to Explore Content to find, actually, I'll do one more note here while I'm in grades, and then I'll go to the assessments. So I showed you how to grade. I showed you what to look for in the gradebook here. You can use these filters at the top. The filters are, this is a new view of the filters if you've been using Learning Site before. So if you just want to look at a certain section of assignments, use these filters to narrow down what you're looking at. And there's a ton of different filters that you can open here. All right, assessments. In EntreCulturas, we have the En Camino formative assessments and the Vive EntreCulturas summative assessments. In French, they're going to be the J'avance formatives and the J'y arrive summative assessments. So one way that you can access that, and I'll go in this way too, there's a folder for the En Camino, and there's going to be all the resources that you need for the assessment right here. In the textbook, you'll see a description of the assessment, like here's the interpretive task, here's the interpersonal task, here's the presentational task. But then all of the materials for the assessment are going to be in this folder. So in this case, they have a video. We've got a file upload, which tells me there is a document in here. So I'm going to open this document so you can see students are taking notes on this blog that they're watching. So again, because this is a PDF, you can print it out and make a handout, or you can assign online for students to submit in this file upload assignment. Let's take a look at this task for this assessment. So here they're writing an email. So what I would suggest doing with students, and this is what I did with students, is to go into your textbook pages where that En Camino is and just look over the pieces together. This gives you a more clear picture of that overall assessment. The folder has all the documents that you need, and then this has like the overall view of everything. So we know we're gonna see this video blogger here. We're gonna fill in some information. We're going to compare preferences with a classmate, and then we're gonna write an email, and then you're using a menu board to do some more tasks. So that's my formative right there. And then with my summative, my Vive EntreCulturas, it'll start off with an essential question and your kind of locate students where they're at. What is the real world task? Why are they doing this? What is it? And then it gives them their 3 tasks. So they're interpretive, interpersonal, and presentational. Again, you can go into the folder and explore content to find all of this, or you can just select these compasses over here on the side. These summative assessments for both the J'y arrive and the Vive EntreCulturas, have rubrics written just for these assessments. So you'll see that here. I'm going to pop it out in a different window or different tab. So these rubrics are great because it gives me the proficiency levels across the top, and then it's got all the different tasks that students are doing down the side with descriptions. All right, so those are the assessments that come with the units. So again, you'll get a formative and a summative. If you're in the upper levels, you get 2 formatives and a summative. And then we also, in our recursos or resources folder, will have more assessment materials. So I'm going to go into my only for teachers. It's the same in French, ressources pour les enseignants, and be able to find my midterm and final exam materials. This will give me pieces for assessments. So if I wanted to create a new assessment with different tasks, those will all be in this folder. And you can use those for retakes, you can use them for practice tests, placement tests, all kinds of things. You also have these alternate objective tests. So again, I'm in resources in the Solo para Profesores folder, and the alternate objective tests are multiple choice auto-graded assessments for each unit. So you'll see for unit 4 that we were just looking at, there's vocabulary, grammar, culture, and then reading comprehension. These can be assigned just like any other tasks in Learning Site. Let's look at French. So same thing, I'm going to go into my Explorer content, find my resources, and resources for teachers, midterm and final assessment, French has a little bit less for the midterm and final assessment than the Spanish does. And then down here at the bottom, the alternate objective tests with those auto-graded multiple choice assessments per unit. So those are all of the assessment pieces that are available to you. All right, keep my eye on the time. We're going to pop over to assignments over here. If you've assigned something to your students, it will show up here. They have a calendar view where the assignment appears on the day that it's due. There's also a list view that both you and students can see both list and calendar view. For teachers, if I select this assignment in list view, I can see which students have submitted assignments. I can also edit the details. So if I want to change the due date, I can do that right here. I can export this list. I can use archive to archive any assignments. So if this list is really long and I don't want to see all of them anymore, I can archive, select the ones that I want to archive. I would recommend doing that over remove because remove is going to remove any student work or student information. So if you want to just take them off this list, then use archive. You can add assignments here. So if you know exactly what you're going to assign from your unit, so let's say I'm in this découvrant section, so for Spanish should be observa, I can select all these activities and then I can assign them all at once as like a bulk assignment and go through the same assigning process. More. Nualang, if you haven't used Nualang yet, or if you need help with Nualang, we have done a few webinars on Nualang already that are in our library, so be sure to go and check those out. I'm going to move on to this menu here at the top. So with more, we've got students. That's if your list of students is in there so you can see who's in your class. Settings, let's go into settings here. Here's where you decide if students can see the transcripts for videos or the subtitles, And you can customize this so that you only have some students see it. So for example, if I have 3 students that need accommodations where they get to see the transcripts or see the captions, I can customize that and pick the students that always see the captions. Max task attempts. So everything has 3 attempts. If I want to change the universal setting for everything, I'm going to do it right here. So let's say I want everything to only have 1 attempt or 2 attempts. I could do that here. I'm going to leave it at 3 for now because you can also change at the assignment level, which is what we saw earlier. Down here, this is where you can change your gradebook from points to percentages or vice versa. So I had percentages, everything was out of 100%, but I changed it to points. I like points because that way I can decide, okay, everything's worth 10 points unless I change it. You saw me change it earlier on a different assignment. So that kind of lets me manipulate how I want to manage my grades with points. And then down here, if I want these turned on for everything, again, these are universal settings. These are all the assignments that I have changed the settings on for that assignment. Show hide content over here. When you loaded up Learning Site this year, you might have noticed that the formative and summative assessments were hidden from students. So that's a new change for this year, which from the teacher point of view, I really appreciate. I don't have to go in and hide those things. Students also had the resources hidden for them, or some of the resources. So anything that is unchecked is hidden. Anything that's checked is shown. If something has a line like this, it means some of it is hidden and some of it is shown. If you, let's say that first semester you're only going to teach 3 units, you could go through and hide the other 3 units. That's just students won't be able to see it, and you can come in and adjust anytime in here. But that's the big new thing for this year, is that we did go ahead and hide those for French J'avance and J'arrive, and for Spanish the En Camino and Bio EntreCulturas automatically, so that you don't have to go in and hide those things. All right, Amy, how are we doing? Questions?
Yes, there was one question. Actually, it was a 2-parter talking about recording assignments with students on the website while in the classroom. So logistics of doing that, knowing that sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. Didn't know if you had any suggestions from being in the classroom that you would
Sure.
like to share.
So, yeah, with the recording. So let's say in that scenario, I had 34 kids in a class. So in that scenario, they're all trying to record audio at the same time. I did a few different things. If it was a class that I mostly trusted, I said, okay, you have 10 minutes, disperse nearby, record your thing, and then come back. So they went in the hall, they went outside, they could go outside, right outside my classroom, or they stayed in different corners of the classroom, recorded really quick and came back. So that's one way I did that. The other way I did too is if they were really close to their computer and they talked quietly, I could hear just their clip. Yes, there was some background noise of other students talking, but for the most part, I could just focus on what that one student was saying. So if everybody's kind of close to their computer and talking quietly, that worked pretty well. If they have headphones that they are able to connect to their device and then use the microphone from their headphones, that's also very helpful so that they could all stay in the classroom and record at the same time.
And there was also a little bit of a question about integrity, making sure students aren't going to different tabs and reading translations and things like that. I definitely had the same concern with my students in class. I think that is just kind of the nature of those kids feeling uncomfortable and not quite ready to present. So I think by giving them additional practice time and a lot of scaffolding to get them comfortable to speak, that is my number one, I guess, tip for getting them ready. Use a lot of practices for them that don't require the grade or isn't going to be a grade, so that when it comes to the grade time, they're not even thinking about having to use additional supports because they're already ready. Lexi, do you have any other suggestions about that?
Yes, what you said is fantastic. That's what I would say also. If you are really concerned about them being on the computer and accessing those things, everything is printable. So you're able to print any of these things and make it a paper and pencil handout, or yeah, paper and pencil handout. I know if they're recording though, you're gonna want them to record in Learning Site. So that's just one of those things, like Amy said, with providing that practice, making sure they're ready, and just being honest with students and saying, look, I know that you were reading this and I'm not going to penalize you, but I had a line of, I can't grade work that's not your own. So I would say that I need your work in order to grade it, and then just keep doing that until I get their work. So those are my workarounds.
Okay, and I think pretty much we've caught up with everything as best as possible. I tried to answer a couple things in the chat that I could. If you have any questions that are specifically related to maybe your district and your district's setup, like how things are, I did put in the chat for you how to reach out to your account manager, and then they can put you in touch with us so that we can look into your situation individually, because everybody's situation is a little bit different, and we want to get you using your resources as best as we can. So just reach out to us. We will be in touch.
All right. I'm going to run through this left-hand menu really quick because we haven't gotten there yet. So we started off by looking at our dashboard with all of our classes. So you can get to your textbook through here, through Flex Text. I would say go through Flex Text to look at the textbook content. You can also go through library, but I think it's better to go through with your classes here. Portfolio, if students reflect on can-do statements in their portfolio, you'll be able to go in and look at what they've done. So I can select the student, show any completed, and then I can look at what that student rated themselves, look at any evidence that they included, and then I can leave a comment to that student, either audio, video, or written. You can also assign these can-do statements by using the Add Assignment button up here. Learning tools. If you have not looked at the Instructional Strategies Toolkit, I highly recommend it. It is a bank of over 200 teaching ideas that you can filter with these categories over here on the left. If you select one of these activities, it'll give you a description of the strategy or the activity, and then if there are links to support, they'll be below. This was really great for me when I was feeling really burnt out and I didn't have any ideas. I could just scroll through here, find an activity, and see if I could make it work. These are all things that you may have seen at conferences or workshops before and maybe forgot about. So it's just nice to have them collected all in one place for you. This professional learning tab will link out to our professional learning page. So upcoming webinars will be posted on there, and you can see our past webinars there too. And the lesson plan generator will help you identify some activities and put a list of activities together in a document. Remember that down here at the bottom, you have some helpful things. So first, you've got your notifications. If students submit work, you can see it here. You can always find out what's new on Learning Site in this What's New tab. And then if you need help, you can access this help menu. I'm also going to point you to Can Do in this bottom right corner, our owl friend here. Can Do has got all kinds of useful things for you. Instructional tours, user guides. We just put our product training e-learning course on there as well, our YouTube channel. So check out Can Do in this bottom right. You can also use this button right here to share your feedback. So if you want to tell us about your experiences, or maybe you found a typo or something's not working right, you can put that in here and we will get that on our fix list. And then you can always reach out via chat, support, email, phone number, however you want to get a hold of us. So I think that was a very brief tour through Learning Site. And I think we touched on everything. So thanks for being here. I have a couple things that I'm going to share with you before we go. Amy, was there anything else I should touch on?
Looking one more time at the questions. And I do not see any additional questions. I see a lot of thank yous. So thank you to you all for joining us.
Thank you so much. We would love feedback. Your feedback makes these webinars better. So Amy's going to put a link in the chat for the feedback form. It's very quick, just a few questions. Or you can scan that QR code. So I'll leave that up there for a second. We also offer a certificate of participation for this evening. So get your professional learning hour for being here. You're going to fill out that form, and then you will get an email with your certificate. Allow 24 hours for that email to arrive. And our upcoming webinars. On Wednesday, we will be doing the same thing with the new edition and including our German text. And then on March 2nd, we will have another webinar about the student experience. What is it like using Learning Site from the student point of view? And Amy, I think, put those links in the chat.
I did.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate you spending your evening with us. Again, reach out if you need anything. Otherwise, thanks for joining us. And we will be sending out a recording of this presentation in the next few days. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you very much.